Hey, what's going on, social media friends and family, good people of the social media world? My name is Arthur Johnson Taylor, and this is Taylor Talk Presentations. As an author, it's a pleasure to present you all with information that can be used to pretty much describe who I am as a person and or as an author. However, there's no argument that anyone can use to dispute the fact of how far you can go with the right information as well. And I want to dive into some more of my book, Deadly with Pivotal Moments, God's Plan Never Failed, because I feel as if it's a need to give a deeply and well-defined pronunciation that defines African American culture in reference to our young black brothers that are dying statistically by recidivism in the streets of America, and not to distinguish race, um, but I also implement the cause of cultural diversity and the benefits thereof. I just want to give um, the mothers, single mothers of America, a round of applause, because I feel as if they're doing the best that they could to raise our young African American males to the best of their ability, in reference to not having a father and not having the proper resources to help guide those guys in the right direction. There's no stern form of structure in regards to appropriate mentorship. Um, a lot of people look at what's on the surface instead of digging deeper beneath the surface, that may help you discover what is causing the issues behind aggressive or violent behavior within those young individuals. And I'm still in chapter one. Images turn to reflections, and that references, the images that taught us, and the images that we are right now soon will turn into an image as well, the reflection of an image. So I'm on page 10. I'm in the first paragraph on page 10, and I'm at the bottom of the first paragraph because I did read up until the point where I actually mentioned, I said I believe in a God that can do exceeding abundantly. That was a scripture from Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20, and I'm going to finish that. It says, in reference to our own survival, statistically, the numbers are astonishingly staggering. Coming from uh, astonishingly staggering murder rate in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the mid to late '90s, I would like to address the fact that I escaped that era unscathed, to which I've suffered a lot, I've been through a lot, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot myself, and I thank God for allowing me to have made it through those tumultuous times of complication and difficulty in reference to being raised in a single parent home with little to no resources on the reconstructive process of formulating my life on the right path. My mother tried everything she could, man. My mother put me into different programs. She even called a guy, and I think this guy was affiliated with some type of, I think it was association dealing with mentorship and helping me navigate my life in the right directions in regards to like a big brother situation. So this guy would come pick me up, bring me to his home. He had a wife; she was a school teacher, and they had two kids, a boy and a girl, and they were around my age, maybe a year or two younger, and they had a great life. And I think he was doing the counseling. He was a counselor, not a mentor. He was a counselor. He was doing the counseling thing, and me and him would ride around for that whole day. It was only like once a week. I done that for like maybe 2 months, and I think it just stopped. My mom would tell me that he came by, but I wasn't home for him to pick me up. And back then, you didn't have cell phones, so it was no way possible that when I step outside that door sill, that she was able to get in contact with me. So yeah, I'll finish off. It says that the numbers are astonishingly staggering. When it comes to men of a certain culture, ethnic background, or descent, especially those who are of African American heritage, growing up in a single parent's home can be the perfect setup for his own misfortune. And that's determined to be true based on statistics. If you do not have the curriculum of a popular fundamental format to help this young man gravitate towards education, academics, athleticism, or some other creative means of releasing the energy that he has, invigorating a keen sense of knowledge, or preoccupying that idle time with something constructive, this guy's going to find another way to identify himself with something that he could relate to at his current age. And I'm saying that because I was a young man that done the exact same thing that I'm telling you that young men are doing right now today. I was not a victim of it. I was a suspect of it. You know, so a lot of us paint the picture of being victims of our circumstances or a product of our environment, to which we are products. But I don't look at myself as an actual product. I look at myself as a human specimen that God created in a human form, that kind of took on the likes of imitating a role that didn't quite fit my persona as a person. Inside the home, I was raised totally different than the image I portrayed outside of the door sill of my home. When I went around other guys on the street, by those guys having reputations in the neighborhood, street credibility, I felt as if it was within my own means to have one as well. So I did whatever I had to do to get that. Role models are lacking the ability to be more responsible in communities where structure needs a certified means of reestablishment. So the law enforcement agencies need to be retrained and recalibrated as well. I think from a community perspective, in reference to the responsible means of a role model, needs to be recalibrated as well, because a lot of the mentors that think they are doing a great job, right? I think more could be done. Leading by example is not indulging, not engaging, not condoning, and not co-signing. You know, this is the perfect role model for a young man or a young lady to see and are willing to. And I have a young guy that reach out to me, man. Little guy, Fernando, he reach out to me all the time. I mean, we haven't spoken in like a month or two, right? But I reached out to him, and he always responds when I reach out to him. So he's there. He's my mentee. And I allow a person to have their own space. I don't crowd those individuals, right? I just continue to do my part, right, in reference to doing the right thing when no one's looking. That's what I do. So, yeah. So this is something that I think is vital to the existence of those guys, because it's not about me or any of us, for that matter, who are over the age of 35. You are obligated to relegate the remainder of that time to the younger generation. You know, I'm willing to sacrifice the things that I want, the things that I need, the things that I want to enjoy, to help those individuals find a sense of relevance in their current life as well. Whenever you see a kid who admires a dealer or some guy who carries guns, disaster is not far behind. Manifesting the results of participating in crime would soon take upon the character of a boy who is only curious, right? And you know, curiosity kills the cat. You know, when you lose your son at 15, 16 years old, you'd be like, oh, my baby. Yeah, he was your baby, but your baby was outside experimenting with things he had no business experimenting with. And no offense to the mothers or the parents, we love our kids regardless, of the fact of whatever they do. To which I love my daughter. I only have one child, and she just so happens to be a female. Now she's a woman. She's 25. She'll be 26 in a few months. And every time I'm around my daughter, she always gives me good advice about how I carry myself in regards to not so much as how I conduct myself towards her, but in the general public as a person, period. Like, so this is really who you are. Like, Dad, I see now that this is who you are. Like, you're not the person people make you out to be. And I love that because I haven't even been around my daughter that long. Like I said, I was gone for 18 years of her life. And I was in prison. And I came home and my daughter accepted me as if I never done one day. So I know that, and I just got a compliment the other day from a tax guy. He told me, he said, man, I sense, I notice your sense of innocence. And he said, you have purpose. And he asked me, we build rapport, a developmental conversation in regards to credentials. What kind of background you got? What are you currently studying? What you doing? Job, work ethics. So I told him I was, studying to get my associate's degree in human and social services. And that was a very interesting topic because this guy just got his doctorate degree, right? Nigerian guy, to which we all have a lot of things in common, but this was something that actually, turned the light on for me, that God always put me around people who are on the same level as me. And I'm not saying since I'm getting a degree that I've been meeting these kind of people. Even before I got into school, I was always surrounded by these type of individuals. All right, so furthermore, I'll discuss on page 11, still in chapter 1, lacking proper supervision and leadership led to more silly encounters. Parents are busy working and paying the bills, therefore they get to pay attention to what is more important. They forget to pay attention to what is more important. The boy who has questions about what he sees in the community now raises a series of questions. But the parent's not home, right? So whenever he has a chance to address his parents, this is the topic of conversation. Most parents, when they're confronted with a kid that has those kind of questions, they may brush it off as if it's a light topic. Oh, well, don't worry about that. That's just something that just don't you do it. No, I mean, this is something that you need to sit down and actually talk to this man about, because this man really thinking about doing it. That's why he brought it up. I mean, I was a young man, so that pay attention to the, like you see in a relationship, the red flags, that's a red flag with your son. Sit down, or better yet, say, son, listen, if this is something that you really want to talk about, we can talk about it. And, let him express himself. How do you feel about this? What do you think about that? When you see those guys, is this something that you want to do, something you want to engage in? Are you curious about this type of lifestyle? And then once he expresses himself about what he thinks or what he feels or what he would like to do in regards to imitating that image that he sees in this other guy, tell him the end results of that. And that may sway him to believe that this isn't something that he would like to get into. Making this information available to help decrease the odds of our younger generation who is subject to drugs, prison, and violence contributes a reliable resource to a species. Like I said, I reference myself to being a specimen of the human society, to which this is how I address other individuals as well as specimens. Contributes a reliable resource to a species on the verge of becoming extinct. Because when you look at it, the murder rate in every state is pretty high per capita amongst African Americans. So in order to reduce that recidivism and those astonishingly staggering numbers, we need to have a serious conversation with our kids. We work, we pay the bills, we trying to keep a roof over their heads, but stop raising your kids, providing a home and food and clothes, and start training them, right? And this is serious. Yeah, I'm telling you what to do because this actually works. Like my mother talked to me from the time I was conscious to even know about right and wrong. I'm gonna say from about the age of 9 or 10 till I was like maybe 16. I stopped having those conversations with my mom because I was fully convinced by that age about what I wanted to do. Right? So she allowed me to bump my head and go through what I had to go through to come back to where I am right now today. And that's how this chapter started. Do an evaluation on your life and see that how you was raised, or how you was trained, and how that lines up with where you are in your life at the current moment today. So everything coincides. Everything is correlated to from beginning to end. Every topic has, it's falls in sequence, and it has a subject, it has a predicate, and it also has a cause, and it has an effect on everything that happened in my life. So I'm taking my life and I evaluated it from beginning to right now. And I'm showing you how to do the same thing through these books. Like, this is great information. It's not like daily but pivotal moments, God's plan never failed. No, I'm not talking about, how treacherous I was. And I'm just basically using bits and pieces of how I thought as a kid and how my inquisitive behavior got me in trouble. So I do describe in brief detail some of the things I've been through, some of the things I've done, but ultimately what I learned from what I went through. And I'll continue to read. Every year, the murder rate increases in urban areas across America. Considering our youth, according to available research and data, urban areas in America see significantly higher rates of youth homicides, as opposed to rural areas where drugs and violence isn't considered amongst such factors that exist in urban communities. So, when you think about this thing, it's bigger than just our local community. It's a vast conversation that needs to be held inside of the homes of every urban community in America across the globe. Don't allow your kids to step outside the door sill and learn from the community or the streets. Teach them inside the home. My mother actually had Bible study with us in the living room of our home from a time we was about maybe 6 or 7 years of age to like I was about maybe 13 or 14 years old. So she done this for like maybe 5 or 6 years repetitively until we was able to understand a spiritual side of life that kind of took us away from dwelling on our current situations of being in poverty, being raised by just mother alone, and what it actually would take to get us out of the rut that we was in. You got to pray to God. You got to pray to God. Even though you don't see him, and most of our kids today is taught to believe in what they see. And a lot of adults, they believe in paper currency, and money isn't everything. That's not God. It's only a resource, a tool that we use to keep utilities paid and our livelihoods going. So you got to have information. Information is key. This is more valuable than money. Every time I go around my daughter and pull out money, that girl look at me and be like, I'm all right. Do you need something? She be asking me, do I need something? And I just offered her some money. So information is vital. And I always talk to my daughter. When I talk to my daughter, she just listens to me talk. Like right now, how you guys are listening, she'll listen and she'll be like, that's interesting. I'm gonna take that into consideration. She's like, Dad, you smart. And I love that about my daughter. I love it about my kid. That's a side of me that I identified about myself years ago. I was always a studious child. I was a student at everything I did. And when I was in the streets and I hung with guys that done things, and when I downloaded that database and I felt as if I wanted to display some disruptive behavior towards someone else, I plotted everything about how I was going to do it, when, where, and how I was going to lead this, and I done it flawlessly. So you can do anything you want to. But I know one thing, that these type of conversations actually help the child, because it helps my daughter. And I won't be too long. I got one more paragraph and I'll end for tonight. Poverty-stricken situations tend to create external problems. The development of gang activity causes our youth to focus on each other. And that's not the primary goal here. So once we focus on each other, then this gives or alleviates the other ethnic groups to thrive and evolve in other areas of life, finances, economics, agriculture. Everybody's buying land, opening up businesses, and they gaining huge amounts of assets that would help establish themselves on a level of comfortability or sustainability in our current world today. So they're able to contribute to the cause of our economic system, to where we are actually tearing down each other and reducing the value of ourselves. So this is something to help rebuild and reconstruct the lives of urban communities, young African males, American males. They need to have, I'm not saying I have all the answers. This is just a part of it, right? I came up with a solution. This is what I think. That's what this book is. This book is only my thoughts on what I think should be done. Use of drugs and alcohol consumption, right? And we all know if we turn from one thing to another, this don't work, we're going to turn to this for resolve. So I'll go drink and I'll go smoke and hopefully my problem will go away. No, that's not how it works. It only makes it worse. All right, use of drugs and alcohol consumption leads to disruptive behavior. So if you're already mad and upset, angry, and disturbed by your current circumstances, if you use a stimulant, this is going to increase the aggression of your mentality and cause you to retaliate violently. So I don't think that would be a pretty good idea for any one of us to do. Towards parents, siblings, members of the community, teenage pregnancy, unplanned parenthood. This is the results of that behavior. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen if you do not control your emotions and your anger. And if you result to alcohol and drugs, right? Because you're not thinking clearly. The Bible says, be ye sober-minded and be vigilant, be watchful. So if you get high, that kind of distorts your thinking and you become disillusioned in your process of decision making. Early stages of adulthood without any experience of how to be fully responsible, basic education, welfare, low-paying jobs, components of a failing system, redirecting the attention of our youth to live a criminal lifestyle. That's what this does. That's what this does. So this is a reconstructive effort of helping a child gravitate towards a better form of life. And the cover just make the book attractive. If they see that, they're going to think, oh yeah, he talking about some gangster stuff in here. Yeah, the way I'm sitting in the chair like, no, but when you open that book, you about to be introduced to Einstein, the Black Einstein. Yeah, brother, read that. Read that. But anyway, my name is Arthur Chauncey Taylor. If you haven't had a chance to get any of the information I have on Amazon, please do so. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. You guys have a great day.